Today I'm joined by Chris Hughes, President and CEO of OsteoRemedies. Chris, thank you so much for being here.
Glad to be here.
So tell me, Chris, how did you get into this industry? Was it always the plan for you?
Not sure if it was always the plan for me. It was really the first job I took when I left the Army was medical device sales. So that's really all I know. That's started that in the early 90s and have been really in the same industry ever since that.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit more about OsteoRemedies. What's the problem you guys are aiming to solve?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the problem that we aim to solve is infections of total joints. A little over 2 million people a year get primary knees, hips, and shoulder replacements in the United States, and about 2% of them end up being revised for infection. So it's a pretty big problem that PJI is the acronym that they use, periprosthetic joint infection. And people get treated with total knee, total hip, and total shoulders, and they do extremely well. And they go from being in a lot of pain to going back to their active days of playing tennis, running, golfing, doing all those things that they like to do in their typically age 40s, 50s, 60s, and even older. But when someone gets a infection in that total joint, it can be catastrophic. Some of these patients end up going from being healthy to having an amputation a month or two later, or sometimes even worse. Some of these PGI patients end up losing their battle, losing their life over this. So back in 2011, 2012 timeframe, when I was exiting out of another company I was running, I was looking for an indication that really had kind of an unmet need, and I identified PJI and infection of total joints as an area that really needed a company to focus 24/7 on, and that was the vision we founded OsteoRemedies on, was to be the only company that really focused on the revision of infections 24/7. A lot of great companies in orthopedics, and they all have products for infections, but really nobody was infection only because it's such a small niche market that the big companies don't focus on it. Not that they're doing anything incorrectly, it's just we do. And so we're proud 12 years, almost 13 years later, to be the market leader in that industry. And, we keep looking for ways to keep growing.
Beautiful. So now that we know where you've come from, tell me, how are you looking to grow in this upcoming year?
So this year, we are looking to grow by adding more products, not only for the revision of infections, but also to prevent them. It's funny because some surgeons kind of laughed at me. We did an acquisition last year where we acquired the assets of a company called Next Science, and they have products that are used to prevent infection. And one of the surgeons laughed at me and said, why would you do that? You're going to put yourself out of business. And, I'd love to do that. I'd love to put our infection remedies products out of business by removing the infections totally. That would be a great jiu-jitsu move for our company. But the problem is the bugs are winning the war and the infection rates are going up. And it's not because surgeons are doing anything wrong. It's not because the products aren't very good. It's just the way that the bacteria grows on these products is a challenge. And so we're focused on that. We have great products for the remedy, hence the name of our company, OsteoRemedies, of infection, but we're also trying to prevent it. So we're excited this year to incorporate a new product line of prevention antimicrobial washes that are used to help reduce the infections.
Awesome. I love that little jiu-jitsu move you guys are doing. So I'm interested here. This is obviously quite a new product. And yes, of course, you have told some surgeons about it. But how are you planning on really spreading the news about your new
The same way we've always done it. There's no secret in the success of medical devices and probably any industry. If you have a good product and you have a poor sales force, you won't do well selling it. And if you have an average product with a phenomenal sales force, you'll probably sell a lot more than you should. I believe we're in a very good position because in the last 12 years, we've built a really great sales force of independent distributors. And our plan is to drop those new products into that same channel, find new distributors that want to work with us and want to even go deeper penetration wise into the market. And so there's no secret to that kind of success in medical devices. We're going to do what we've been doing, fundamentals, blocking, tackling, so to speak, and dropping these products into our distribution channel, finding new distributors to focus on the areas where we have not been successful in the past. And that's how we're going to get the products to the patients. We wake up every day thinking about patients and how can we get more of our products to these patients through surgeons. And the only way in the medical device world is to have really good distributors that give us access to those surgeons.
You mentioned it a little bit. You were planning on branching out a little bit, finding some new distributors. How do you actually go about finding them?
Well, there's two ways. We go out and find them or they find us. And a lot of people have heard about the acquisition of Next Science. OsteoRemedies has made a little bit of noise about it on our social media. Plus, the industry is small. Everyone thinks they're in a small industry, and you probably are, even if you're selling computers like Apple does. Everything's a small industry when you really think about it. The word gets out. We've got a lot of distributors calling us saying, hey, we've heard about this. We know about that product experience, it's called. We know about that new product, Blastex. It's a wound gel product that we acquired. And a lot of people want access to it because their surgeons want access to it. And well, that's one way. And then the other way is we reach out to distributors that we don't work with in areas where we think that they can help us be successful and ultimately get these products in the surgeon's hands to get to these patients that need it.
Couldn't agree with you more right there. At the end of the day, everything we do is for our clients and in your case, your patients. Now,
That's it.
I'm interested here. When reaching out to these surgeons, how do you actually get a hold of them? What's your main channel of, marketing here?
The main way we get a hold of surgeons is through our distributors. We have independent distributors. We're the manufacturer. We make the product. We help them with marketing materials. We help them with all the FDA regulatory documentation they need. We help them get into the hospitals with contracts. But at the end of the day, so to speak, the distributors are the ones with the day-to-day relationship with these surgeons. Without our distributors, we cannot sell products to surgeons because we don't employ, nor would we ever want to employ a repless model. And it's primarily because these products need to be managed, brought in, and taken care of by our sales reps in the operating room during the procedure. It's not like pushing a buy now button and selling gloves or selling sutures or selling those kind of commodity products. These are physician preference item products that surgeons want to use because of the science. We have a lot of data behind our products. And so the way we get that word out is through our distribution channel. Now, we also help it along. You kind of led with a nice question there. We use our social media as well as we can. We put data on our LinkedIn pages. We send out a lot of messages through Instagram and others. Clearly, that's not, in my opinion, that's not the best way to get medical device data to the surgeons. It's through your reps that are with them every day in the operating room.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more right there. Someone on a previous podcast of ours said something that will always stick with me since. It's marketing's job is to make sure when that rep shows up to the door, whoever they're meeting knows exactly who they are, why they're meeting them, and has all the information they could ever need. And I think your company benefits from that dramatically.
I think so. The one difference of our company versus a lot of others, we don't sell primary knee and hip and shoulder replacement products. We only sell products for the revision of total joint infections or infections in the spine or infections in trauma or foot and ankle, those kind of things. And these reps need to be armed with clinical data. This isn't something where you walk in and you do it blindfolded, so to speak. These are what the industry likes to call the train wreck procedures. These are very difficult. A lot of surgeons don't want to do these procedures because they're very difficult to do. The outcomes often, even if you do everything by the book, they don't come out great because these patients are oftentimes, you know, they have other comorbidities, and there's just a lot of confounding factors of why these infections are hard to beat. But these patients need excellent care, and we're very fortunate to have 125 distributors around the country right now, and we've got another 100 or so we're looking at through this new acquisition. And we believe that that's going to really help us get products to the surgeons and these patients a little more going forward.
At the end of the day, that's the end goal here. So
That's right.
going back a little step here, your sales force, obviously very important to you. How do you make sure that your sales team is always performing as well as they can? And even before that, how do you make sure you're even looking at hiring the right salespeople?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's no science behind hiring the right distributors. There's, you have to kind of look at the data, and you look at people that are penetrated with high market share of their primary line. So we look for distributors that do really well with primary knees, primary hips, primary shoulders, because if they do, then that means that they're working with the surgeons that are doing a large volume. And it's typically those that are the ones that end up seeing a couple infections here and there. So the way we do it is we treat our distributors well. We like to be the easy company to work with. We try not to nickel and dime our distributors with weird kind of loaner fees and penalties. We try to be the good guy. I know my CFO sometimes gets frustrated when we leave money on the table and we don't fine our distributors, and maybe our commissions are higher than they ought to be. There's all kinds of ways you can argue the best way to treat your distributors. And in the 13 years that we've been running this business, and since I founded it in 2013, I've just tried to be the good guy to distributors and treat properly if they do well. And if they don't do well, we don't treat them poorly. We just try to bring in others that can help us get products to the patients maybe a little better. We're not a perfect fit for everyone, but if we find a good distributor that wants to work with us, we treat them well, and we think that's the way to grow the business.
Exactly. Mutually beneficial relationship. Couldn't
I
ask for
think so.
much more, can you?
Yeah.
So, one of my favorite questions here. If you had a magic wand and this magic wand could fix any of the problems in your business, what would it be and why?
Well, it would be to eliminate infections. It honestly would be. It's an interesting phenomenon that we have. Medical device advances have been tremendous in the 35 years I've been in this industry, but the one thing that continues to be a problem is infections. And you would think that by now we'd figure out how to eliminate them. And I think a lot of strides have been made. Surgeons have found better techniques. Hospitals have come up with great sterile techniques. Products are packaged better than they used to be and sterilized better than they used to be. But it's just one of those problems that doesn't go away. And if I had a magic wand, I'd wave it and I'd eliminate surgical site infections. And I think a lot of patients would have better lives. But until I have that magic wand, we're going to keep trying to build OsteoRemedies to be the market leader in infection management. And that's what we're set out to do.
Awesome. And then, would you like to leave any pearls of wisdom here for our listeners? Maybe a great bit of advice you heard, quote you live by, anything along those lines?
I think it would be embarrassing to try to provide your listeners with any wisdom. I would just tell everyone to focus on the patient. I've seen a lot of medical devices that focus on trying to be the better geometry, trying to be the better size, the better technology. And really, if it isn't something that provides a clinical advantage over what the standard of care is today for the patient, then I think a lot of that is just noise. We try to do, and in my career, I've not always been in a position where I was thinking of patient first. It was running after high revenues, running after new markets, churning products over and over. And all that's good because these products are great and you need to deliver them to your stakeholders. But my only advice, if I gave to anyone, either at a big company, a small company, a new company, is think about the patient first. Because someday you may be the patient, someday your spouse may be the patient, your family member may be the patient, your best friend. I've had experiences in my life that I've lost people because of infections. In fact, my wife died almost 10 years ago based on complications from infections of many surgeries. And I don't wish that on anyone. And I wish that everyone would focus on the patient first. That's my only advice.
Thank you for sharing that. That's truly heartwarming and very inspirational. Lastly, before we hop off here, where could any of our listeners get in touch with you if they want to reach out for whatever reason?
OsteoRemedies through many different ways. If you want to send an email, it's info@osteoremedies.com, or you can send it directly to me, chris.hughes@osteoremedies.com. Would love to hear from any of your listeners.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. It was an absolute pleasure having you on our episode today.
Pleasure was mine. Have a great day. Happy New Year.